All right. Welcome, everybody. Dean, let's see if today's channel is going to work on YouTube and X. Welcome to all the newcomers. I doubt there's anybody on X today because it's literally the first time I'm streaming there. But TikTok, the usual, YouTube, the usual. We'll see if it actually works. If not, we'll have to start again. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Simulation Talk 50. Jerusalem of Gold, Cliff Brenham, all the newcomers. This channel is mostly revolving around the simulation hypothesis. Cal, how are you, brother? Yes, Jesus. My name is Danny, and I am claiming to have found proof that we live in a simulation. Ahoy! We're meeting here on the daily to discuss the discovery, the experiment, science, spirituality, religion, philosophy, whatever comes to mind. And today, hopefully, how you doing, brother? Getting an echo? That is strange. Why would you get an echo? Everybody are getting an echo? Thank you so much for the likes. Anybody else hears an echo on TikTok? Okay, we have one person on YouTube. I don't know if it's showing me people in total because I'm supposed to be streaming now to TikTok and YouTube. This is the first day that I'm streaming also to X officially. No echo. Okay, so it was just Cal. Good to know. That's easy. One static reality would name them jet skis rather than motorcycles. I love this comment. Yep, that proves we're in a simulation. Actually, you nailed it. That was actually also my thought. So we're good then. Okay, perfect. Also, Cal, would you do me a huge favor? Would you also check YouTube if it sounds all right? And if I may be so, daring to also ask to check X if you're on it. I just need to know if it's actually streaming properly. And I appreciate you, brother. On X is just Goler Danny. Croatian? Dude, very close. I'm Russian, but my dad is Lithuanian, so that's very close. YouTube is good, thank you. Perfect, amazing. If you can check X. Okay, it's one of these like we're trying a new boat. You know what I mean? Welcome to all the newcomers. I'm going to repeat, this channel mostly revolves around the simulation hypothesis. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found proof that we live in a simulation. And we're meeting here on the daily to discuss religion, science, spirituality, philosophy, and whatnot. The experiment that I am proposing, that I discovered a few years ago, that if you project a diffracted laser on the surface and ingest a molecule that I cannot name on this live chat, you will see code running in surfaces. This observation has now been replicated over 1,000 times worldwide, and I am in contact with some leading scientists in the field. Important to mention that this does not necessarily mean they all agree with me. In fact, some of the leading ones disagree with me. However, I have my convictions and I will stay by them. But all I'm offering, as Morpheus said, is the truth. And I'm offering an experiment that anybody can run. Amazing, Cal. Thank you so much. Yes, Franklin. This is Jesus. I'm just gonna lean into it. You see colors? You for fun. Well, welcome everybody. I see we have a bunch of new people today, so hopefully you'll enjoy the conversation. If you want to see more expanded, longer form, my accent today is out of control. If you want to see longer format of my videos, you can go to Dango Thoughts on YouTube. It's 3 words: DAN, first word, GO, Thoughts. And all my videos, all the content about the discovery and other things are on there. We have a lot of fun interviews coming up, actually with some experts in the field. In another dimension to it's other business. Wait, is this comment from X? Is this from X? Oh, then it sends it to both. I wonder. Jesus Christ stream. Somebody once told me I should call the channel TikTok Jesus, which is a great handle. But I don't know. It just feels a little bit too Too much. Have I read anything by Sean Carroll? Yes. You mean like his research papers, or you mean like some more public-facing things? Yeah, Sean Carroll is great. Is there a particular reason why you're mentioning him, Jay? So, is Dango like Van Gogh? No, it's like my first and last name. Danny, Goler. That's what it is. YouTube. Wait, so you see it on YouTube? Since you're the one, the business that suggested to go on X, can you check that X is fine and send me a text message from there? I want to see if I'm getting messages from X, if you don't mind. Again, it's Goler Danny. Okay, sorry for the rambling. Today I'm just trying also to stream through X and YouTube at the same time. It's the first time. It seems like it's giving us a little bit more people. To all the people on X, if you're there, this channel mostly revolving around the simulation hypothesis. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found actual proof that we live in a simulation. I've been talking about it publicly in the last few years. I've spoken to some experts in the field. Important to mention that some of them do not agree with me, just to be fair. However, I'm proposing a simple experiment that anybody can run at home. And you can watch my videos on the subject. If you go to Dango Thoughts on YouTube, TikTok is just Danny Goler, and here on X it's Goler Danny, as you can see if you're there. The experiment is very simple. If you project a diffracted laser on the surface and you ingest a particular molecule that I cannot name on any live stream, I would assume, I'm pretty sure even on X, you will see code running in surfaces. So obviously, that statement by itself does not sound too convincing, but it's the way that the code appears, how coherent it is. This observation has now been replicated over 1,000 times worldwide. And yes, it does not count for an actual double-blind scientific level rigor. However, we're going to get there. And I'm claiming that, in fact, the main element there, aside of the fact of proving that in fact is going on, is to figure out what to do with it, which to me is the central question. There's plenty of people that would like to verify this, and that's very important, and we'll let them do that work. Ava, how are you? Is that particular molecule a necessary step in your theory? Uh, uh, so yes, the short answer is yes. I met a few people that said that they could see the code without the molecule. However, I think it's not quite the same, or it's not as coherent. It's not as solid. Amazing. Okay. So it lags a little bit, but I'm glad that we get to stream to all of them. It's definitely a booting copy of the software, like Photoshop off Limeware. I love the comments today. They're hilarious. What's up, all the newcomers? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we meet here on the daily, and we discuss all kinds of things. We discuss science, religion, spirituality, all the things that binds us as humanity, because I believe that all of these subjects are relevant to what some people will call the awakening. I would just call it the new age of human understanding, which will include folding the observer into our scientific models. Some people think it's impossible. I think it's absolutely indispensable if we want to make real progress. Now, obviously, some people are researching in that field, some very wise and smart people that I deeply respect. And I'm very happy that more serious people taking these things to the next level of actual scientific investigation. Our job here is to be clear, coherent, authentic, and talk about things in real terms. Try and stay away from the woo-woo as much as possible, but not gloss over things that are in fact happening, that very often being misrepresented or ridiculed in the wrong way in some scientific circles. So we're bringing all kinds of types of conversation. It can drift to any subject, really, if it's interesting. Sometimes we have a panel, sometimes we have some experts. And I think this is all the introduction that I can do for this particular moment. So, all of that being said, let's dive right into it. In the last few days, we've been talking a lot about the big questions, idealism, uh, uh, people in that space, Bernardo Kestrov, Donald Hoffman. There's actually a really, What's up? How are you, Sport Muse? Good to see you. There's, in fact, I always mention the Toe podcast, Theories of Everything podcast with Kurt Jaimangal, wonderful podcast. And he recently did a series of the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg of consciousness, something like that. You can find it on the channel. And he does a wonderful summation of all the newest cutting edge theories that are on the market, on the offering at the moment. And he compares and contrasts them. He's superb at doing that. So I would highly recommend that. And in that spirit, I think we can explore a little bit more what would make sense in terms of just being, the common folk like myself, just living our lives. What does that mean if we, in fact, do live in a simulation? This point is very prone to confusion. People very often confuse the word simulation with the word fake, which it does not mean that. It just means computationally rendered. The question then becomes, what is computationally rendered? What is computation? All of these questions are key in order to be able to understand what we mean by saying that we live in a simulation. In the movie The Matrix, the way it was depicted is that we were essentially prisoners inside of a computer software. Now, aside from the fact that the reason for that was a little silly in the film, now it's an amazing film, and we wouldn't have The Matrix without that plot, so I'm very grateful for that. But essentially, we are prisoners in that world. In the real world, what I'm claiming that the case is that it's more that the real world is computational. So we can talk about what computational mean, but in this space is a slice of that larger reality. That's really the main claim, which nullifies the idea that it doesn't matter, nullifies the idea that this is fake. It is as real as anything else, and is as real as if you would think that this is just being buffered by the laws of physics. In fact, the laws of physics arise from that deeper computational system. It's really all that is on the offer. So who cares, one might ask, which I did when I was thinking about the simulation theory before I discovered this. I never cared about this idea. One of the things that people sometimes hurl at me is that I try to make certain data fit into what I want to believe, which couldn't be further from the truth. I never was interested in the simulation hypothesis because I felt it was arbitrary and boring. Simply because, on the surface of it, if you just think about it philosophically, even if the idea is maybe a little bit interesting, it opens more questions than provides any kind of answers, because if it is a simulation, who knows what the underlying condition is? It becomes completely arbitrary. There's a cutoff point, which means that from the point that we talk about the layer in which we're being simulated, maybe the laws of physics are completely arbitrary by some weird whims of the simulators, right? Which makes the problem kind of infinitely far away. And because of that, I never thought that it would ever hold water or we would ever interact with it. So I was more surprised than anybody else that we can potentially now actually probe into that space and potentially answer these questions, and also maybe find out what else we can do with this larger layer of actual reality. Jay is saying, I never say anything other than geometric. Wait, did you mean say or see? I never say anything other than geometric pattern, probably patterns, and more pronounced light diffusion. Are you talking about on the molecule? Is that what you mean? By the way, to all the newcomers who are not familiar with this material and missed our intro, at any point, please feel free to ask what exactly I'm talking about. I would assume that all the people here and all the people that are showing up on the daily know exactly what the experiment is and what I'm proposing. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, feel free to ask. I will repeat the experiment very quickly. How are you, Tiger? Good to see you. 8-foot tall alien. They have arrived. I know for a fact it is reality plus added layers. Yes, that is exactly what is being claimed. 8-foot tall alien. So thank you for that. I'm concerned how much damage my eyes will sustain from the laser. This is why you should never, ever, ever use any laser above 5 milliwatts. Anybody who's been following me for a while probably is smirking or laughing because I repeat this like like a broken record. Never anything above 5 milliwatts. If you go to codeofreality.com, we have a full list of all the stuff you can get from Amazon or Alibaba to make it happen. And we emphasize again and again, never above 5 milliwatts. You can get it from anywhere you want. Just make sure it's diffracted and make sure the output is never above 5 milliwatts, and you should be fine. What is the experiment? Thank you for asking. The experiment is if you project a diffracted laser on a surface, that if to anybody who doesn't know, all it means is just like in the supermarket, the laser you're using to scan, barcodes and stuff like that. That is, well, it's a little different because the output is smaller, not above 5 milliwatts, and you want it wider, so you can't have like something that is too narrow. So if you have a wider laser diffraction, and you ingest a particular molecule that is also called the spirit molecule. I cannot name it here, and please don't type it in if you don't mind. You will see code running in surfaces. This is the code is extremely coherent. This experiment has now been replicated over 1,000 times worldwide, and it is now under debate by experts and laymen and people who are partaking in the space. But that's essentially the experiment in a nutshell. Is the sun more than 5 milliwatts? No. The sun is probably, well, maybe a little bit more. The sun is probably like 8 milliwatts, about there. Why do you think you feel so much heat? Let's see if we got any interesting comments that I've missed. I see everything as happy dad cans. So one of the things I wanted to touch on today is this point of confusion, and I do feel it's important to outline, which is really maybe linger for a second about the implication and meaning of this. I think personally that, and by the way, that's the experience, at least that I've seen with people that have observed the code. It doesn't really change much in terms of how you feel about the world in the moment. Surprisingly, if you ever ask yourself what it would be like to know what it's like to be Neo waking up in the real world, well, it's not quite like that, because you're now waking up and machines are all around you, and it's crazy, even though that is what the molecule feels like. But the laser is just, you're in the comfort of your home and you just see the code. It is extremely convincing and behaves like a regular object, in that it does not care about anything that you're doing, not your position in space or anything else you might imagine. It is really comparable to watching a new world you didn't know existed through something like akin to maybe a microscope. So it's kind of, it really looks like you're looking into a new world. Imagine just discovering what's his name, something Van Leeuwenhoek, right? The guy who discovered the microscope, right? And imagine just like seeing this new world that is just existing there, right? So that's what it feels like. So I would say that after having this experience, whatever your belief system, it will be confirmed, because, well, it opens the window to see that, well, if the code codes for reality, it must also code for your perception of it, right? And there is such a thing as consensus reality. I think even if we don't quite know if my green is your green, that's true, but we both can't walk through a wall. So that's consensus reality, whatever it might be. There's still a layer of the code that codes for what we would call an objective reality. It doesn't mean that anything goes. And one of the things I want to emphasize is that conceptually, it shouldn't make too much of a difference. What it does make a difference, at least in my mind, to my mind, is how can we investigate this actually scientifically and see if we can do something with it? Can we modify the code? Can we understand what is the relationship between how the code behaves to how certain forces of nature behave? Electromagnetic force, magnetic, electric, so on and so forth. I think that this should be the emphasis, and at no point it should replace, people's sensibilities in the day-to-day. I think that if you were aiming towards being a good person, you should still be doing that, and you should have been, regardless. Lead a good life, love the people around you, your kids, your pets, and everything else. What is their main opposing position? You mean of the experts, Ava? I'm not going to look into. Oh, no. View for fun. I don't know if you watched any of my videos, but please do if you are ever to participate in this. It sounds like you shouldn't, but if you watch all my videos, you're not looking into it. You're projecting it on the, like I said, on the surface. So you're projecting the laser on the wall, and you're looking at the wall. So you're just seeing the laser hitting the surface. Definitely don't look into the laser if that wasn't clear. Um, I think the one that stands out the most is the opposition by Gallimore. Actually, as far as I know, he hasn't seen it yet. So I do think and hope it will change when he sees it, but he hasn't looked at it yet, as far as I know. The main opposition, as I understand it, is that just from the way it's uttered, the what is being said about it, he says that it is not uncommon for people to see language on these substances. So he would not categorize it, according to him, he would not categorize it in the same family of uh, what he would call more convincing experiences, like beings that people see from all around the world, and they agree that they have these kind of attributes. I actually uh, think the other way around. I think that the beings are somewhat arbitrary because we can think of the beings in terms of archetypes. It might be that the human mind has some fundamental archetypes that exist in them, and therefore this is why a lot of people see similar beings. Now, I happen to know that these beings are real, but if I have to make an argument from like a, from a removed position of somebody who's, let's say, pretending to not know these things, or not to have enough experience to experience this from all angles and to know that these things are real, then yeah, I think I would land on the other end of it, which is like actually the beings is quite arbitrary, and the reason the code is much more convincing is because how repetitive it is. It's repetitive. You can replicate this. You can talk about it. You can investigate people. You can set up experiments around it in a much easier way because the on the surface the observation is much simpler in a way because a being is a very complex thing, but at the same time it has enough complexity to talk about and create uh, you know uh, uh, experimental settings that will allow you to triangulate and find out if there's actually something there. One of the things that I'm sure you heard me say is that, which is the next part of what I'm trying to do, which is to try and create an experiment around it to see if we can create any perturbation in the code in a way that is repeatable and agreeable by everybody. So if I produce some kind of a very powerful magnetic field and I see a change in the code that is very coherent and clear, and 15 other people see it, and then 100 other people see it, the exact same change, then you have another layer of confidence, and then you build on that, right? Obviously, the holy grail would be to see if you can actually cause some kind of a change, either in the psyche or in the physical world reliably. Now you have a real form of actual, like, solid proof. Like now it's just you know at that point disputing it is just going to be impossible. It's just a matter of like, okay, how do we go about this? Let's see what else we got here. If you take the substance with intention to see the code, then wouldn't it just be placebo? Absolutely not. Not everything that you go with intention to, you get. In fact, most things you don't. This space doesn't really work like that. It sounds like you have some experience with these molecules, so I know you would know that the best you can hope for is that it kind of lands in the vicinity of what you asked for. Definitely not with something as concrete and as repeatable and specific as like a code that you can talk about its behavior. And the code, when we just say it with a word, obviously it sounds like a very generalized claim, but the code is very specific. For example, it does not look like the Alison Gray characters. It doesn't. It looks more like Japanese katakana mixed with some Hebrew letters and numbers from 0 to 5. Not exactly like that, but it kind of looks like an alien language that resembles these things. The specificity combined with the complexity of the behavior, combined with the fact that even people that don't know what to look for see the exact same thing. People who you tell them to look for something else still see the same thing. They don't see the thing you told them. So it becomes clear that the code is just the code. It doesn't really care what you want, what's your prep, which is what actually makes it stand out, is so different. It's funny when TikTok tells you we're notifying viewers that you're live. It almost sounds like a threat. Oh, we're going to notify viewers that you're live now. Okay. Fine. Fart man. Great. Great evening. In Jesus' name. I'd very much love to have my way with you, your right nostril. Well, unfortunately, I am engaged, but maybe, Fartman, maybe in a different lifetime. Thank you for your wonderful comment. Um, Fifth Horseman. Let's see what we got here. Thank you for the like, the Fifth Horseman. I appreciate it. Critical is in the house. Jay said, I've heard the argument that the code is just diffraction due to eddy currents in the air. Well, that I don't know what that would even mean because the projection is coming from the wall and not from the air. And also a stronger potential argument, which is still not a real argument, which is that it's what's called the speckle effect. The speckle effect is the shiny, glistening thing that you see on a stochastic pattern when you project light on it, especially a laser. The reason it's clearly not that is because, first of all, the wow, my brain. Why am I just said it? It's hilarious. The speckle effect is still present, so you see the code and the speckle effect. Plus, the behavior is so complex and repeatable that it's silly to consider that that's a speckle effect because the speckle effect is very you can easily see some kind of an illusion of motion. It's very different. um Notify those viewers, yeah. Will this code not be imprinted within multiple parameters at once? What do you mean by that, the world teacher? I'm not sure. What's up, karaoke? What do you think that heavenly ball globe you were presented with was all about? Seen it again? Seen it twice. Yesterday, I was telling a story about a particular object that I've seen a couple of times in the space, and that object was so beautiful that it made me believe in heaven in one instance. And I was, like, I know it's a somewhat of a chewed up kind of story. I mean, I put a lot more emotion and effort into the story yesterday. Apologies, but I'm just recapitulating the general thrust behind the story. So Cal, that ball, I have no idea what it was. My best guess, it was some kind of a scanning of the room, like an antivirus or something. But I have no idea. If you guys are interested in what in the world I'm talking about, if you go to Dango Thoughts on YouTube, again, it's Dango Thoughts, Dango Thoughts. There's a video there called The Console. In it, I'm talking about a particular experience that I'm now having on a regular basis after I built the laser, in which a computer console opens up for me every time I smoke the molecule. And we're talking about 100% of the time, just like opening a laptop, it's there. And I'm talking about the details of it. And I even have a 3D illustration of what the base of it looks like. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about right now, I usually don't hang too much on these kind of experiences. This is why I went for a very long time not talking about it, because one person's experience is not really that interesting. I'm not a huge fan of trip reports. Some people love them. They bore me. So that's why I'm kind of, usually reluctant to put any emphasis on what I'm experiencing, because who cares, right? Maybe some people care, but like I don't know if I would. So I tend to not talk about it. But the console is unique. It's very, very convincing. It's real in the sense that it's has its own spatial coordinates. It's always there. You can walk around it. I have met a few people that experience a similar thing, and a couple that I know for a fact experiencing the same thing. So it seems there's either an uptick in how available it is, or just more communication about it, so more people are talking about it. One of these. Um, Uma Mars, is this code Alex's great wife paints? You probably just jumped on right after. No, it does not look like Alison Gray's characters. Actually, not at all. And in fact, I always say if I would see Alison Gray's characters in the laser, I wouldn't think anything of it, because these characters look more like shapes than language to me. Now, there are languages that we know about that look like that. I know that. But there's something about the blockiness of these characters that I wouldn't be that surprised if the molecule plus some random pattern on the wall will start producing these on a regular basis. Actually, that would not convince me. And it made me realize that it's the specificity of the digits that make it so convincing, plus the behavior of the structures that they create. But the short answer is no, it does not look like that. And that's a very important question. Thank you. The world teacher, would this code be oh, You said that. Okay. Let's see if we have some clarifications here. What is the function of the console? I think it's there to train some facets of my attention that I'm not aware that I have. In order to understand that you're actually managing to do something, you need to be able to have some kind of a feedback mechanism that tells you something happened or it didn't happen. And I think the console is a way to train certain facets of my attention in my brain. Without without the console, it will be very difficult because you don't really know you did something. But the second you manage to make a menu work, you're like, oh, and then you remember, okay, whatever I did right now, that is doing something. So I think it's for that mostly. Yes, so that's to your question. Can I interact with the console? Yes. I feel increasing pressure to. I am working on a sequence video of the console in which I'm talking more about the menus and about specificities. And so I feel increasing pressure to finish this video and release it. Hopefully, I'll do it very soon. And that's all I can say about that. But yeah, I can definitely interact with it. It's just difficult to interact with it because it takes a lot of concentration and it's exhausting. Like within 5 minutes, I'm tapped out. Are you able to write down the code on paper and share it with us? Thank you for the comment. View for fun. I had a couple of artists recreate the code, and we're working on the documentary right now, and all of that content is going to be in the documentary. So if you're going to keep following the channel or my YouTube channel, you'll know when I'm going to be releasing some trailers very soon, and you guys will be able to see the code in the trailers. Are you able to write down the code? Oh, Jesus. Okay, here we go. The business. He also jumped on here. Are you able to write down? Wow. A reflection of consciousness. What is, Ava? What is a reflection of consciousness? Just like the movie Inside Out, it's a kids movie where emotions and memories are saved and stored. Oh, I love that movie. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Yeah, business. The console. No, I don't think so. It doesn't come across like that at all. It is really interesting that a lot of people tend to they really, because I guess it's a very dominant idea now, in to believe that everything is this is all just a reflection of whatever we are, and maybe it is, but it's a reflection of something that is much more than we are personally. I think, in that the console does not appear like anything that has to do with inside of me. It's more like it's straight up like a computer, and then that computer somehow registers what you're doing with your attention. Actually, that's a great question. 11 in between 11. I don't know if we're going to put it in a movie. We'll see. We need to decide if it's going to take us too far afield and going to make it a little bit too woo woo. Because again, the console is extremely coherent for me, but again, I'm constantly very aware of the receiving end of the message, and it's just I have to kind of like follow whatever my intuitions are. And if somebody's telling me a thing, even if I believe them, it's really it doesn't really land. Like unless I have a way to see it myself, it doesn't really fully land for me. So I feel like it's gonna be just a waste of time on the screen, but we'll see. The laser is very impactful because potentially anybody can see it. Like it's a very democratic thing. It's very easy to do. But it will definitely. So if you watch the console, oh, maybe it did. I don't know. But the console is, I have the video here, and I have the longer video on YouTube as always. I mean, consciousness similar to how we aren't a drop in the ocean, but the ocean in the drop. Ooh, I love that. But what are you connecting it to? The wave, the message. I'm trying to see how you're connecting it to the console. I mean, consciousness similar to how. Let me look at your previous message. You said reflection of consciousness. Consciousness similar to how we aren't a drop in the ocean, but the ocean and a drop. console. I think so we are so not the drop in the ocean, but the ocean and the drop. To me, what it communicates is that the element of whatever the universal mind is this, versus thinking of ourselves as this tiny part of it. We are the whole thing kind of experiencing itself from this perspective. But it's kind of, I don't know, it doesn't fully run through, because you are this part of it, right? You are a tiny piece of it. And I know that some people are experiencing the full, like, or a bigger, like they're part of a bigger thing. It's just that the console doesn't have that kind of vibe. Like, it just it's just yeah, just like a laptop, just like you open a laptop. It's very straightforward, which is why it's so confounding, actually. You interact with the console, it seems conscious, but not just your consciousness, but larger. Well, I think the whole system is consciousness. So it's not that it is conscious. Consciousness is what makes everything. That's what I think is going on. So in that sense, saying that it's conscious, it's kind of saying that water is wet. Everything is. Consciousness is what makes everything. That's how I perceive it. Console must be somewhat tied to now, since we haven't had computers for long. Well, so that's a fair point. I would say so. It kind of ties to a bigger meta point, which people sometimes say. Well, the only reason we think of either the world as a simulation, or we think of everything in terms of computational metaphors, is because this is the newest technology we have. And to some degree, that is true, because when it is true that when we look at the trajectory of humankind, every time we had something newer, we described everything in terms of that thing. So when the Industrial Revolution happened, we described everything in terms of engines, and like everything was mechanical, right? Like that kind of an idea. So essentially, we tend to describe everything in terms of the newest innovation. So it wouldn't not be surprising that we see everything in terms of computers, because that's the newest innovation. I do think that it is a little different now. Computers are actually expressing a truly universal function. Universal in the sense that it runs through all of reality. And for example, mechanical things don't necessarily have this quality. And this is why I feel like actually you're getting asymptotically closer to what the real thing is. So you don't have that much more wiggle room to describe it as anything else. You can say, well, eventually we'll discover that actually computation is just consciousness, the way it's expressed to itself in third person. So it looks like a mechanical function of sending a signal, and it allows for an infinite flexibility of creating content of any kind. So something like that. But it doesn't really depart from the idea of a computer that much. It's just that you're injecting consciousness into it. But I think that you got to a point where there's not that much more to go in terms of metaphorical description. Obviously, we'll still change our position probably many times, but it won't be like, let's just say I don't see how you're going to be describing anything ever differently than the functions of what we now call computation inside of experience itself. Like, I don't see how I don't see how you can describe a world in that way. That held all the emotions, I think. There was a console in the movie that held all the emotions, I think. Which movie are you referring to, Karaoke? I think I missed something, because everybody's saying yes, and I have no idea what you're talking about. Which movie? Thank you, Ava. I hear you too. 100 years ago.
She's talking about the movie Inside Out.
Oh, okay. Dude, I'm this is amazing.
Moderator.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was very helpful. Did you see the second one?
Not yet. I heard it was good. I saw the first one in theaters, and yeah, I enjoyed it.
It's great. I highly recommend. 100 years ago, do you think it'd be shown the console? It's a great question. I don't even know if the code would be visible yet. I think it's possible that these things become available as we become ready to see them. I think that's possible. But then again, why would you even build in a mechanism to turn it on and off if people can't see it because of their either intellect or conceptual framework or whatever the reason is? It's just there. It seems much more clean. You just, it's there. And then only when you become ready, again, spiritually, intellectually, conceptually, whatever your brain has to do to align, then you just start seeing it. Like it would be kind of seems irrelevant to build in a mechanism that also hides it when you're not ready. It seems like unnecessary. You either can see it or you can't, and then you don't really need a mechanism to help you see it or anything like that. And then you said the business discovered in 1901 off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera. How do you say it? Dating back to around 100 BCE, is often referred to as the world's first analog computer. Yeah. Wait, I thought the idea was like, I thought so. There was one. I don't remember the name of the guy. So there was a guy in the 1800, in the 18, even the 1700s. It was like a long time ago. That he was missing this much to build an actual computer. Like he already had a working model of a computer. It's just that he was, I don't know if it was like laziness or just he wasn't really good at putting things together, and it missed opportunity. And then only we had to wait like another like 100 years before somebody actually developed something with it. I wish I remember who that
Yeah,
was.
they're unearthing things all the time that we thought we didn't have. You know, it's like I don't know if you've studied Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock's work of like ancient civilizations and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's I've read other books that it's like every 8 to 12,000 years, some extinction level event takes place on Earth that kind of puts us back to the Stone Age. So when you count hundreds of thousands of years of humans being on the planet and how many times we've reached this technology, but then it just gets wiped out. So, I mean, there's no telling. The console could have been, your idea could have been made, but it got wiped out.
Or maybe that's like their way of slowly assimilating us into the space. So when we are entering this new space, they're starting to produce content that is more, convincing. It's like, okay, no, this is actually happening. So this like it's of a different tier, basically. And what did you mean by and even the timing of the ancient Olympic Games? What did you mean by that?
Well, that ancient computer, it was like timekeeping, almost like the first like timepiece.
But you said in 1901.
That's when it was discovered on Earth, but they dated it back to like 100 BC. So
oh, whoa, okay. Oh, I see it now. BC. Okay. That's crazy. Yeah, but they didn't have any conceptual framework of. They didn't have a concept of electricity or understanding of these things. So see, because they didn't have the theoretical framework, this is why the theoretical framework was so important. Without it, you can't really do much. You can kind of like guess what's going on, but unless you really have like a thing that tells you how to measure it, what it really is, that's you're kind of in the dark. Eclipse. I wonder. Yeah. See, I have to be honest. So that whole stuff, like you mentioning ancient civilizations, you mentioning, all the astronomical positions and eclipses and all that stuff. I used to be so into this stuff, and then I kind of got, I don't know, I think I just got disillusioned with it because every single time at the end of that ride, there was some nonsense. And I was like, dude, I'm so done with this. It's like, why? You know what I mean? Like all these assumptions about Egypt and all that stuff. And I know that because of that, it's almost like, recovering Catholics, things like that. They always like have a very strong knee-jerk reaction to people that come to them with like all kinds of cults and ideas, like trying to sign them up for other things. And that's how I sometimes feel. I'm like a recovering like mystic. Like I really love that stuff, and then I'm like, I got so disillusioned with all of it that I'm like, dude, why can't we just fold it into science? Why do we have to like keep postulating all these crazy things? And I know there's probably something there, but I'm having such a hard time taking it seriously at this point. Molecules will
bridging,
go ahead.
bridging science to the spiritual aspect of things, because there is a link there.
Yeah. I just don't know. So I don't know how much truth there is to the idea that we used to have it good and now we somehow deteriorated. I don't know how much truth, truly. I don't know how much truth there is to the idea that we knew more. If I have to put my money on it, I don't think that there's a chance. I think we know more than anyone has ever known on planet Earth, ever. And I don't think there was another civilization that felt like, I don't believe that. So now,
Yeah, I've had that thought recently too. I kind of agree with what you just said. Like, if you do follow the extinction level events and the global resets that have happened, it's almost like take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, to where you're still going up the tier, and we are at the highest level right now. But they just had like more primitive ways, or they might have not even been using electricity through wires. I mean, there's all kind of energy system. They've tried to say that the pyramid was like an energy harnessing device, like the gold cap, almost like the Tesla tower. That Tesla was trying to give everyone free energy. It was almost like a huge. I think I read somewhere that that's kind of where Tesla got some of his idea from.
No, just so you know, Tesla hated these ideas.
He hated them.
He hated them. Like, if you actually read his biography and not what other people talked about him, he couldn't stand it. Like, it went down in history as like considered by a lot of the scientists as a little bit woo, like that, which is not true at all, because I mean, in the end of the day, he contributed quite a bit to science in real terms. He also had some wacky ideas. Now, what's the name of it? It's a short. He has one biography. It's like a short account of it. He wrote it, and so it's autobiography. And he said that he turned down like he had this weird thing where just business was just not his thing. He never managed to somehow work the whole thing with money. And there was one opportunity. They came to him and offered him a lot of money to do like this one project, I think in New York. And he had to turn it down because the people were like straight up like talking this talk that you're saying right now. They're like, connected to ancient civilizations, spiritual this, spiritual that. Is like, absolutely not. Like, he couldn't stand it.
Yeah, now that I think about it, you are correct, because he was quoted saying that he himself didn't come up with any of his ideas. They came to him in like flashes of light and like fully already put together like pieces. And he never built something in the physical that he hadn't already built element by element in his mind.
Wait, how would that? But how would that is true? But how would that support the idea that how would that translate to him not liking that kind of rhetoric?
No, I was agreeing with you that he might not have liked it. I was just
so I guess where I'm falling on this is that and again, I know I depart from a lot of people on this, and I'll be the first one to say that of course I can be absolutely wrong, and most of the time we're all wrong about basically everything. So now, not like pretending to think that I truly like understand the whole thing, but my intuition tells me that if you look at the core operative of all of these kinds of ideas, they usually have this kind of like very subtle virtue signaling element, and that really turns me off. It's like this: modern humans, bad. We used to be good, now we're bad. It's always couched in this feeling. I don't like that because it's not true. So like we're literally we finally managing to step out of this like eternity of just surviving, and we're managing into a place where we're like, okay, we have the opportunity to thrive. And just because we have our ills just like we always had them, I mean, if you look at history, it's just horrific, right? But we finally kind of like getting to a place where you can consider that maybe there's a better way. So even the slightly elevated ills, they look terrible, when in reality, they used to skin people alive. I mean, dude, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's and the thing is that it's almost like you spit in the face of progress. That's what it feels like to me. And it doesn't mean that we don't have to rectify things, but I think that's my main kind of like gripe with it, which is every time you talk about an ancient civilization, somehow they were like these wise, amazing beings, and we're just pieces of shit. Like that's what's implied, right? It's like, dude, no. It's just, I'm not behind this. It's nonsense. And it's like, I don't know if you saw these videos, but like serious people, right? Serious people consider these things about Egypt, and like I know quite a few of them. And again, people that I even know, like Robert Grant, super successful people, super smart, like, you know, way smarter than myself, and they really like take this seriously. But then you hear them talk in interviews, and they compare apples and oranges. Like you hear Robert Grant talking about all these relationships inside the pyramid, and literally in the same sentence he would use inches and the metric system, and then he would find relationships between them. This is so arbitrary. Like, first of all, in Egypt, did they measure with inches or the metric system? Like, which one is it? You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't make any sense. And also, I don't know if you've seen these videos, but like people say, like, how did they cut these things? And then there's this guy that just puts, you know, sticks in the stone and just gives it one whack, and it just opens super clean like that. And you go, oh, okay. It's like, so I guess so imagine being bombarded, but like being so into it, dude. I was so into it. I was so into the stuff. Oh my god! And then every time I would like it would break my heart. I would see this like actual explanation to the thing. I was like, dude, every time, every time. It's like that Tim Minchin. Have you ever seen Tim Minchin's prose Storm? Oh, dude, it's amazing. So just type in Tim Minchin Storm. It's like a 10-minute beat poem. He's a genius. He's a comedian. And in it, there's like one line where he says like, throughout history, something that I mean, obviously, I can't do it as amazing as he does. I highly recommend everybody check it out. And he goes like, every time we looked into something, basically, I'm paraphrasing, it turned out to be not magic. That's kind of my feeling. Like, why would we consider it to be like this? You know, there's true amazing awesomeness in the world, and every time we pretend, we step further away from actually discovering what it really is. Every time. So why would it be any different now? You know what I mean? That's my thing. But of course, it's my very human. You know, we all have that one thing, and that's my one thing. I just can't. I can't. And people that I dearly love, they're so behind this stuff, and I just lose interest so quickly. I was like, why is this interesting? And it will be another slap in my face if I'm wrong about that, and they were all right, which is very possible. And yes, there were aliens that built the pyramids and all that stuff. And hey, I think at this point, I let go of caring about hits to my ego. So if I will discover this tomorrow, I'll be the first one to say, "Yep, I was wrong. No problem." Like, but at the moment, it seems to me that that's much less likely than Atlantis and, you know, and all that stuff. Because if they would be that advanced, I don't see how they could just completely disappear. That's it seems to be a bit too much to entertain. Because people in the caves survived. Would do you like where do you sit with that? I know you said you agree with some of it, but like clearly you have interest in this, and the last thing I want to do is drown somebody's interest in something that fascinates them. But did you not have this experience of kind of like being like disappointed at the end of one of these rabbit holes because you see, oh, there's just like a straightforward explanation? Did you never have this experience?
Well, my response is kind of a mix of Ava's comment and Strange's comment.
Let me see.
Ava said, we can have ancient civilizations and still be an advanced current civilization. And then Stranger said, limiting knowledge for control is bad, but you can't just unveil or it's chaos. So, I mean, one of my theories I've had after looking at these extinction level events that are, you know, ice core samples have shown every 8 to 12,000 years they take place. It's that whatever small amount of cave people are left and the amount of advanced people that are left to repopulate the planet after an extinction level event. Of course, the advanced people are the ones like calling the shots and all that. And it's just a small amount of technology that trickles down, you know, over millennia till we build up again. Because you know that old saying that whatever technology we have, the government is 50 to 100 years ahead of that we don't see. Well, I mean, if you take that theory, it's like, well, once we, the people that are above the governments, the true rulers of the planet, I mean, they're probably 500 years ahead of any government with the technology that they have access to.
I'll tell you why this doesn't make any sense. Because, and then Cal, I would love for you to weigh in as well. Because there's a difference between technological advance and magic, and there's a really good distinction between, this is something that Deutsch talks a lot about, the difference between prediction and prophecy. There's always a horizon of available data. So there's, according to the available data, you always have a particular horizon of predictability, right? And then beyond that, it's prophecy, because the creation of actual knowledge is, in principle, impossible to predict. For example, all the predictions of whatever people thought about, if it's either, what our output might create, or what the cause of certain wars would be, or global warming, and all that stuff, in the beginning of the last century, was literally impossible to predict, because certain technology didn't even exist. So like, you didn't have nuclear technology, so you couldn't even like conceive of that, right? So and this is we think of it as like almost like flukes, but they're not. So the development of knowledge seems to be, there's something about it that is always happening at a certain pace, right? So you can bet on the fact, you don't know what it is, but you can bet that there's going to be developments that you can't foresee them right now. And because of that, this idea that somebody has a technology that's 500 years more in the future, I know you're probably just saying it to exaggerate, but even I would say that even you wouldn't be able to keep a technology that is even 10 years more advanced than what it is now, in the pace that it goes now, under wraps in the world that you live in today. That wouldn't make any sense, because the amount of chaos, connectivity, and all of that is just too large. And don't forget that there's a lot of people on a planet that they're not just kind of like, like, again, the regular folk, and they're not the elites. There's a very thick slice of the population that are kind of like, you can call them kind of, I guess, the gatekeepers of sanity, funny enough, because they're either like a group of hackers that are extremely effective, but they don't answer to anyone. So rest assured that if something like this would exist, and by the way, I want to be fair to your point. One modification I would offer, though, is that it's definitely not in the hands of the government. The government is the most inefficient body in existence. Maybe some secret organizations may be more plausible, but even there, because of the amount of competition in that space, because of the amount of mind caliber that exists that is more anarchist in nature, that's not a plausible scenario. This is the equivalent, to my mind, it's the equivalent of believing in magic. The idea that there's any kind of an Illuminati level mind that can predict things 100 years into the future with the pace of rate that is happening now, it is the equivalent of believing in superpowers, like actual magic. Like, that's not possible in principle. Well, at least that will be my contention.
Did you ever see the show Devs on FX?
No, I don't watch, but please enlighten me.
Yeah, where they built kind of a Looking Glass technology type machine. Are you familiar with Project Looking Glass?
Wait, why is it so familiar? It sounds so familiar. Project Looking Glass. That one rang. Oh, I just Googled it and it's buffering. GPL, create an innovative 3D desktop environment for Linux. No, that's something. It can't be that, right? What you're referring to something else?
No, it's like a future predicting technology that supposedly some group had access to, and the show Devs on FX. It's kind of like a whole series. I believe it was just one season, because one season was all you needed to get the gist of it. But it's just kind of going into that kind of technology that you're saying would be magic, is that it took into account like all of the elements of the earth, like every atom pretty much, and they put different stimuli into the system to see, okay, if I if I went to McDonald's instead of Burger King today, how would the next 24 hours go? And like they could go 100 years into the future to see like it's, you know, it wasn't 100% accurate, but that's kind of what the show. I don't want to give nothing away if somebody wants to
Well,
watch.
oh yeah. Well, if you, I definitely not gonna watch it because I don't usually watch. But if you want to send me like, actually, why am I putting it on you? I can probably just ask ChatGPT to summarize it for me. Okay, I'll look into I'll look into the summation.
I've saved so much time by asking ChatGPT to
Yeah,
give me
no.
the summary things here in the past year. It's like, wow, I didn't have to research for days or weeks. I just like, all right, now break it down to me like I'm 5. You know, it's like really complex things. And then I'm like, all right, now explain it to me that I'm like 15. All right, now explain it to me where I'm like, I've got a master's degree in this field.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the way I've like, if I have no idea about a subject, that's how I've like graduate myself from the information.
Yeah. And just to extend the knowledge, by the way, Cal, this is again, because of how my brain works, please be as rude as you can be. Just chime in. Like, I don't, just, you can cut me off. Don't worry about it. How are you, brother?
Yeah, if we see the blue box around you, Cal, we'll shut up.
Nah, it's all good. You guys are always talking about interesting stuff. I was just gonna chat a little bit about the ancient technology when you guys are talking about that.
Sure.
I had the same problem as you, Danny. It's like it sounds interesting, and then all of a sudden it just jumps to it was aliens or some crazy advance. Like there's too big of a leap forward in technology, and they lose me with that. But I will say there are things that don't make sense about the ancient history, and there are things you can look at right now to connect the dots.
Okay.
So one of the big ones is, you know, everyone knows about Machu Picchu, right? And not everyone knows about Sacsayhuaman, but it's a similar setup with the way they created the structures with polygonal masonry.
Okay.
Now, if you look at that, and that was built, you know, thousands of years ago.
Okay.
And if you look at Egypt and the pyramids also built thousands of years ago, you look at the third pyramid, it has the same exact polygonal masonry on the side of it.
Okay.
So to me, that shows that there was at least communication globally.
Or an idea. So I am open to the idea. For example, the idea of morphic fields, for example, makes perfect sense to me. So there's something about because I now, again, even if most people here are not convinced, I am convinced that we live in an actual simulation. Then it makes sense to me that the tapestry of reality itself is a software, so it registers things. So when something happens, it now becomes available, like it comes online in the world in general. It's like in the internet of the ether. Okay, and now all of a sudden these ideas just come up in different places in the world. That would make much more sense to me. And I know it actually sounds more wild than, you know, like somebody actually communicating, but that's, you know, and I guess actually to extend an olive branch to all the other ideas, the older I got, the more I understand that all of these ideas, they swim in larger chunks of modalities of thought and behavior. What I mean by that is that there's certain behaviors that we like to enact. It feels good to enact them. And these kind of behaviors change with your life circumstances and with age. And for example, when you're younger, this is why a lot more people, when they're younger, they're liberal, because it's there's a cliquey, excited energy and rebellious energy of like, it's like, so you're looking for ideas to enact these attitudes through. And in that context, when you're younger, it's a lot more fun. It feels better in the body to think about all these things and like, why are these adults just like shutting these ideas down? This is why we have all the problems, right? Like, and it goes from like the most mundane things in politics all the way to aliens, right? And the older you get, you kind of like get more familiar with the current reality, and you're like, well, I love the nice ideas, but I also see how much effort it takes to actually make progress in things, because I've tried it again and again and again and again. I know how hard it is to make progress, right? And because of that, there's a lot of people that become a little bit more conservative in their thinking. I'm just using political elements because it's easier to digest. But it applies to also these things. So all of a sudden you become more, much more pragmatic. And then you want to enact the much more pragmatic attitude. And I'm very aware that at the moment, I'm just embodying one more of these attitudes that it feels good in my body to enact. And this is why I always make it super clear that like the last thing I want to do is, kind of like just steamroll through somebody's interest in an idea, unless I think it's actually damaging, and that's a different story. And I'll be very upfront about it. But I have to admit that, yeah, these things they can make sense, of course. It's just that for me, in my life experience, every single time, I can't give you one example where it panned out, not one. Like every time I was like, oh, there's a lot more rational explanations. And it's not like I want the more rational explanation to be true, but now, because it's like, imagine, put yourself in my shoes for a second. So now in the position that I am, which even if, again, like I'm convinced, right? Like I in my body, in my being, I know that what I found is real. So because I know that there's an actual thing happening, and I also know how difficult it is to actually try and figure something out in that space, and how difficult it is to communicate it, when you hear other ideas that are way less formulated, went through a lot less rigor of thought and actuation, and they're extremely arbitrary. They're so arbitrary, a lot of them, because in the sense that you can think of 100 other scenarios that would make just as much sense, right? That what makes me a little bit less, I guess, tolerant towards entertaining all of these things. Maybe it's also attention economy. It's just like, again, it's kind of like, that whole meme about like you get older and you're like, my circle of friends, you're like, it's like, I don't know, like 40 people, 100 people, 40 people, 20 people, and then it's just your husky, right? It's just like attention deficit. You're like, eventually you just kind of like, okay, I'm too old for this shit. It's like, you don't want to, you know what I mean? So I want to be very clear that I know for a fact that I'm just enacting another attitude, just like everybody else. And eventually some of these attitudes meet the physical world, and some of them make something happen. Although, to be fair, some of these attitudes make things happen on a regular basis more often than others. And I think there is still value there. So I guess that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So one thing you were saying, Danny, about how something, the difference between like magic and like something just being a high technology. I mean, the safeguarding or the blocking of high technologies being released to the general public. I don't know if you heard about that guy. I think it was the late 90s, early 2000s. He built a car that could run off tap water. To where
Yeah, I've heard of this. Yeah. No, definitely ideas are suppressed. Yeah. So the only thing I'm contending is the 500 years.
Yeah.
So 2-3 years, yes. 5-6 years in the current rate. So if you would tell me 20 years more advanced, but like maybe 80 years ago, I would say, yeah, possible. Now the rate of change is so enormous that to keep it under wraps is just impossible. So it's like so even if it's like the most secret, I don't know, like project possible, still people are people. This is the thing, that you're dealing with people, and people are terrible at keeping secrets. Like they're terrible at this. And so 2-3 years, yeah, possible. 6 years, maybe. 10 years, no way. Just no way. Just that this is where you get into prophecy, in my opinion. So I'm only contending the time difference there.
Yeah, 500 years could have been an exaggeration, but I guess it's just like, all right, the people in the black suits that approached the guy, because that guy disappeared. Like nobody's heard from him like ever since.
Wait, how do you know about this?
I mean, I forget the guy's name, but if you just type in
No.
create a car that can run off water. I mean,
it was a joke. You're probably not looking at your phone. I'm putting the pen in front of you. Just delete your memory. Continue. Sorry.
No, you're right. It's just like I just feel like that's just one example that got into mainstream news, to where once you do figure out, oh, we don't have to purchase gasoline anymore. We can just pour water in our cars, run for 800 miles. Oh, we don't have to pay for electricity anymore. We can just build this device in our backyard that just pulls electromagnetic for free. It's just like all that technology. It's like it is available to us, but try building that device and getting it in working order without getting approached by someone that it's not like, from what I've heard and read, it's not like, hey, don't do this, don't share this. It's like, hey, here's a photo of where your children go to school at. You know what we'll do if you spread this around, right? And then that's how most people get silenced. They don't get they don't get threatened themselves. Their families get threatened, because I personally know someone that tried to recreate that device in Nashville. And I think they paid him off. It was like, they gave him like $5 million hush money.
Right. So you took it, right?
Yeah, took it.
Okay,
And
so-
then it got black shelved. They like took the patent from him, put it in a black box, and it will never see the light of day.
I absolutely, I know for a fact this is happening. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. So when I said 500 years earlier, I mean, I just meant for the past at least 100 years of, these type of inventions getting produced and figured out. A lot of them get shelved because it would shake so much of the oil industry, shake up so many industries that there's too much money riding on the control mechanism on Earth for just free energy for everybody to get out there.
Absolutely. And before I bring you in, Dragonfly, I heard you start saying something, Cal. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, Danny, if anything like that ever happens to you,
You
put
know.
it out on the dark web.
Exactly.
VPN and make it open source.
Exact. No, but this is the thing. The information is already way too. This is one of the reasons
I switch in place already, right?
I have. Yeah. I don't know why, but maybe it's a crazy, unhealthy mindset. But I don't know. I don't have any concerns. Like it's just like maybe I'm just. Again, maybe I'm just like Danny Glover, right? Like I'm just don't care. I'm totally foolish. I don't care. Like it's whatever. Bring it on, right? But I don't know what the real reason behind this like weird comfort I have around it. But that would be my point too. I don't know enough about. I heard the thing about the engine with water. Okay, I've heard this. I've seen the meme and everything. And I don't want by no means to like again disrespect. Probably maybe somebody did they like made him disappear or something like that, right? So I don't want to diminish maybe somebody was like did like an incredible service to humanity and like to diminish his name. Like the last thing I want to do, but to just look at it from the reasonable perspective, like Cal said, the dark web. Forget about the dark web. Dark web is a tiny sliver of the deep web, right? The deep web is like 90% or 80% of the entire network. So releasing the idea, and honestly, you've seen V for Vendetta, right? You can't kill an idea. If the idea works, it works. It's like
You're right. The way information spreads around on the dark web these days. The thing is, what I'm saying is that guy probably did put his stuff out on the dark web, but the people that are using it, like they're not building it to sell to the masses.
Yes,
There's probably hundreds of people out there that are using water to power their cars right now, but they're not going to tell anybody that they're doing that because they don't want to be fucked with.
Yeah, also true. Dragonfly, what were you saying?
Insinuating, yes, it's a dark entity in a sense.
What is
used in the dark web?
Oh, do you believe that that's the like the dark web, not the deep web, the dark web? Okay, yeah, I can understand that. So,
excuse me, sorry.
But no, please. We like I said before. I don't know if you heard me or not. We're very ADD oriented here, so it's just we talk over each other all the time. It's no disrespect. We're just like hard paying attention. So
I apologize. I do the same.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying it. You're in good company. So just talk over me. Don't worry about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. And also, could I piggyback off of essentially when you're talking about like, well, I guess that's my train of thought is our thoughts or why we're here on Earth, like essentially like why we're here.
You want me to like weigh in on it, basically?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean that's the ultimate question, right?
Yeah.
I think if you go to Dengo Thoughts on YouTube, there's a video there. You'll see that there's a series of videos that I made about the simulation, and the one.
Oh, cool.
So if you go to the one with the thumbnail is a purple background with my face on it. If you go to minute 16, I'll talk about it a little bit now, but there I kind of break down like what I think is going on more in depth. But the general gist behind it is that I think that the reason that the simulators are running all of these simulations is because they're trying to answer exactly what you asked me. So the short answer is even the highest civilization in existence doesn't know. Like they don't know why. So for example, you know the idea of perm I can never pronounce that word properly. Business help me. Permspermia, right? Where the idea that life didn't originate on Earth. The idea that maybe life started somewhere else in the universe.
I'm definitely extra. I'm not from this reality. Yeah.
You are okay. So okay, but to me, so that idea of life didn't start here and just landed here from a meteor or something. I always say, so what? Like it's not answering anything. You're just saying, okay, it started somewhere else. Great, but how did it start? That was the question. You didn't answer the question.
Yeah.
So I think that question remains no matter what. So you one of the people that believes that you like you're aware that you came from somewhere else, like you're not from here, right? That sounds
I'm the absolute 100%.
okay.
Yeah. No, I'm not from this earth. I'm here to. I feel as though I'm here to heal and yeah, heal from generational curses and that kind of thing, and help others, of course.
So what's interesting is that about Zena, okay, baby, in a moment. That maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I would never think that what you're saying can possibly be true. And then now I actually met some people and I've experienced some things myself that makes me know for a fact that at least some people that claim these things actually that it holds water, which is a wild experience for me actually.
That's cool.
Yeah. Did you become aware since you were a little kid or like later in life?
I used to actually astral project from second grade and into the etheric. Yeah, and I was very lost most of my life, and then I had an accident where I lost vision in my left eye, which I can still see. I'm still functioning and stuff like that. No one would know that I lost vision because I had a surgery. But anyway, needless to say, I've had pretty traumatic experiences, but they've all been for the greater good of why I'm here for healing, basically.
Well,
And not to mention, I was an empath my whole life, and luckily, like I've been through a lot of life coach, life coaching, to
Yeah.
where I'm, working out of being an empath, basically.
All I can say is thank you for sharing. I mean, I've definitely know that I've experienced this 2 times personally myself with people that made these claims, and it's a long story in each one of them. So not gonna get into too much details, but I know for a fact that, and again, this is like a wild thing for me to entertain even, but I know for like as I felt it, I saw it, it was crazy. So I completely believe you, and I'm glad you're sharing. Thank you.
Thank you for your service, Dragonfly.
I apologize.
Thank you for your service. We need more people like you.
Oh no. Thank you so much. No.
Hang on here. Don't go anywhere. I want to bring on. I don't know how to pronounce your handle, but it's a mouthful. C21H23. What is it?
I said Bob is fine.
How are you, Bob?
Not gonna stop until he's got
The conversation really struck me because I've been there myself. One, my name is a chemical equation. I love chemistry. I have died several times due to chemical things, and each time my heart stopped
Whoa.
for 5 minutes plus. I had a different experience.
Oh wow.
So, me personally, I don't know what's there after. Because each time it happened to me, there's 5 times, they were all different. One time it was blank. It was nothing. Like purgatory. One time I was in heaven. One time I was in hell. One time I was visiting my my dead parents. You know.
Yeah.
But it was a unique experience, and I felt like I needed to come and kind of share that with you guys because it's different for all of us.
Yeah.
I think.
And what this is one of the things I always emphasize, which is very difficult to connect to experiences that other people have. That's why I tend, but
there's a reason why we feel those different, we have those different experiences because God, for some reason, God wants us to feel those different experiences. I guess.
yeah, no, that frame makes perfect sense to me. Thank you so much for sharing, Bobby.
Yeah, we're all the tentacles of source out in the universe collecting data to bring back at the end of our life.
Right.
And those of us like you, people that have had NDEs, out of body experiences, have tried the molecule, you're much more receptive to Danny's work because you've already been to that space. So people,
No, listen, I've died 5 times and I OD'd 3.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And me being in a car accident and losing, consciousness and being revived is a much different experience than.
Too much on my finger, Mommy. I put it too much.
Okay, go ahead.
It's a much different experience than ODing off a drug and being revived.
I can.
So
is it still the eternal aspect feeling though? Like you?
No, like I said, each time it was always different.
Yeah.
So and to be honest with you, the ODing aspect, that's when I felt like I was in hell, when I felt like I was in purgatory.
Whoa.
And when I felt like I was closest to my past family. Now the 2 times that I got into car accidents and I was revived, that was the closest I've ever felt to God, and that was the weirdest thing to me because I'm not a religious person. But
Interesting.
I did have a figure come to me and tell me this is your purpose in life and this is what you're gonna do. And so many words.
And have you followed that since?
No,
So-
yeah, I do. Yeah, absolutely.
So guys, I thank you so much for sharing, Bob. I have a
I'm
situa-
sorry.
Oh no. You're totally good. I really appreciate you sharing. I wanted to say something about what's going on my end. One of my dogs seems to really need to go. So YouTube and X, I'm so sorry. You might need.
that dog.
I have a husky and a lab husky mix, and one of them really needs to go. So I can take the iPhone with me, and TikTok will come with me. But YouTube and X, if you guys are gonna have to wait like 8 minutes, it's gonna be limbo. Probably gonna lose most of you, but hopefully won't. If you can either wait 8 minutes or come back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
apologize. I feel like.
Oh no. I'm talking to YouTube and X. This has nothing to do with you guys. You did nothing. Like it's just a thing that I gotta take care of. But I'm gonna take TikTok with me. So TikTok is coming with me.
Dog out to go piss.
There you go. One thing I want to say right before I take her, Ava, to your comment way before, you asked if the molecule released born and when we pass and other time naturally dreams. John Dean discovered a few years ago that the molecule is in our system comparable to the levels of dopamine and serotonin. So it's not in trace amounts. So we used to think it's only released during NDEs and things like that. We now know that it's always in your brain all the time. Okay, X and YouTube, apologies. Wait for me for 8 minutes. TikTok, we're gonna continue as usual. We're just gonna go. Okay, so stay and no go fix exactly. One second. I'm not hanging out. Give me 1 second, guys. 1 second. Hey, baby, can you please check messages? Can you please take Z? She's going insane. Yes. Please. Thank you. Okay, I think we're good. I think my
I said 5
Fancy.
times. That was
Okay.
really quick.
Mama's gonna come take you, boo.
I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Miss Fly. Yes, I've died.
I'm here. I'm here,
Died
guys.
5 times.
I'm here. So I think
Yeah,
my fiance is gonna come in.
And each time I had a different experience.
So we'll
right.
guys. So
Oh, go ahead.
before we continue with the, thank you, baby. Sorry, they're just going insane. So before we continue sharing some of our things, I realize that we have like a million comments I want to get to. Guys, please stay put. Don't go anywhere because I see that that this stay right here, and then you can comment with me. I just want to make sure that I get through some of these. And then,
Miss Fly, if you have personal questions, you're more than welcome to message me. But I'm just a ghost on here.
don't be a ghost. Be a friend.
No, I'm always a ghost. I pop in, I pop out. I liked your topic, and I really wanted like. Yeah, I've got something to contribute in this discussion. I think.
Absolutely,
Yeah, I appreciate you.
and I'm glad you did. So please stick around. Let's see if there's any comments that we might actually take on for the panel. And here we go.
I'm more than willing to answer any questions.
Amazing. Yeah, if somebody has any questions for anybody in the panel, feel free to go ahead. Oh my God.
Sorry, Fly. You're getting somewhere.
Let's see. Wait, so
I
images.
apologize.
Oh yeah. Arikos, absolutely. Okay.
In all honesty, any experience I had was a moment's experience. It's literally like falling asleep and waking up.
Yeah, no, I relate.
Pick them up.
I definitely the reason I was kind of going with that when kind of thought process was with the God aspect was I feel as though during those going through those experiences I realized I'm the God of my life, meaning like I have the choice that might be a bit much.
When it happened to me, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I basically like God told me that I was being a bitch.
if this is not a t-shirt waiting to happen, I don't know what is.
It's a joke to say. Listen, he basically told me it's not your time. You need to go back.
But who is he? Like
I don't even know who he is. He was a shadow to me at that point. Same with the devil too.
So guys, how do you let me ask you a question because this is I want also to connect people to this more and get them engaged.
And
What-
when I was in purgatory, I had no shadow to guide me back.
Bob, question for you. So
Yes, sir.
when you had these experiences, right? So for example, imagine yourself being sitting at home listening to you talking about it, right? Let's say this is not something that you ever entertained or you are very much on the fence about these things. What can you say to somebody that why is it more convincing than let's say just having a dream? Are there elements in the experience that are more realistic? What is it about it?
Nothing I could say to make it more convincing to anyone who's listening to me. That's just my personal experiences.
No, I understand. I'm not talking in terms of convincing anybody. I'm asking you what were the elements in your experience that made you understand that this is different than just having a dream?
It didn't.
Hmm.
Because like I
so
said,
like
this happened,
checking your ego, that kind of thing.
this happened 5 times for me. And it happened each time it was different. So I really don't have an aspect of checking myself of what's real and what's not.
But that's why we're here.
Yeah, well,
It's
that's
true.
why that's why I'm trying to share my experiences because
I respect.
I literally I OD'd off of drugs 3 times, and I died through car crashes twice.
It's
Right, the first time I was in an actual car crash. The second time I was hit on a bike, and those are the two times that I died. And I was brought back through what do they call it, through the electrical thing. Yeah, I was my heart
defibrillator.
was jump started.
Yeah.
3 times after that, I OD'd off of drugs.
So what? How do you explain that you had all this misfortune? Was it like life choices or just karma? What do you attribute this to?
With the drug portion, it was bad like bad.
What are your what are your like perceptions, I guess, rather, of like what you learned from those
What did I learn
experiences?
from the experiences?
Mhm.
If I had to say anything, I would. I still don't believe into it or believe in it, but there must be a higher power.
Yeah, there
Because
definitely is. Yes.
Five times I've been brought back to life.
There's
I
definitely a
literally-
higher power.
My heart has stopped for over 5 minutes 5 times,
Yeah.
and
So-
that doesn't happen often at all.
No,
Period.
there's a reason for you being here.
So there has to be something looking out for me. I still don't believe in God though.
Wow.
Interesting.
So through my experiences,
Like I said, I just joined to share mine. You know.
Damn, after dying 5 times and not crossing over, you still don't believe?
Yeah, no, I still don't believe God. I don't.
Fuck, mate.
Well, honestly, I believe the Bible is a book of stories. It's a,
Well, we're not
Yeah.
talking about the biblical God. We're talking about like pure source consciousness, the higher power.
thank you for that. Thank you, the business.
with that being said, I feel like I got extremely lucky, more than most people ever get lucky.
Right. So why do you think
What
why
are
do
you
you think
doing with
you're
that?
back here? What is the value of you keep being brought back here?
I don't drink and I don't do drugs anymore.
Do you think it's also maybe to help other people?
With the last 3 times, that's what I'm doing with that.
Are you saying that like your purpose is to like be an example, to not be a drug abuser? Is that kind of what you were told about?
My purpose is just to
Which is
live
fine.
life and maintain my life. It's the fact that I just scrolled on here
Mhm.
and I kind of got a hint
There's
of
no
what you guys were talking about.
coincidences.
I got kind of a hint of what you guys were talking about, and I just wanted to share my story.
I appreciate you.
Oh, for
And-
sure.
Thank you, boss.
Thank you.
That's even if it is just that, that's still a noble
It's
path.
unique to me. I don't brag about it. I don't share it very often. It's nothing special. It is.
No,
and
man.
it
It is special.
Well,
Stopping 5 times and you
I personally feel like I'm very, very lucky. Okay, but there's no reason for me to, share that to the world. But with this particular conversation, I felt like I need to stop here and
You're like-
give
you're
you
like-
my experience.
You're like Bill Murray from Groundhog Day. Like, no matter how many times you try to kill yourself, you just keep coming back, man, because it's not your time yet.
You know what? I've seen Groundhog's Day so many times. I don't think Bill Murray.
Of
once
course
tried
you
to kill
have.
himself.
It's over and over and over.
That's really funny.
I've never tried to kill myself, but the 2 times I've had a serious accident, and 3 times I did it to myself. I OD'd on drugs.
So
Well-
if you don't mind me asking, what has been your progression, I guess? Like,
Again, after the last 3 times, I stopped doing drugs. I've worked on my alcoholism, and I don't know, since I was 15 years old, since that second accident, I've just tried to be a good person to other people in life. Just try to be nice to my fellow man or woman. I mean, does
Man,
that
that's
make
all you
sense?
can do too, man. Do that and follow your bliss.
All right. Years after that, that's when I had my first overdose. And then about 2 years after that, I had my second. And about a year after the second, I had my third. and that's when it really connected with me that I'm just not built to do drugs.
Oh, only in the third time. Okay. It took a few knocks.
Sorry.
Took a few knocks. So, guys, I wanna also be respectful of the audience as well. I appreciate you sharing. This is incredible. If anybody has questions, I would encourage people to ask you or Dragonfly.
If I'm insulting anyone, please block me.
No.
not him.
No, what are you talking about,
No.
brother? No, I'm just I want to be mindful of the fact that the other people are also watching and maybe they want to participate and engage. So I want to see if we can answer the questions. So I appreciate you sharing, but I want to move on to also other points.
Sorry, yeah, I don't read the chats. I apologize. I get
Don't-
lost.
No.
You don't need to apologize, brother. Everything is perfect.
We
I did want to
Yeah.
ask who was it here that asked this?
Dimensional beings like aliens created the. That's well, it's your chat.
Yeah, you feel free. This open source science around energy is happening now.
Yeah.
Something that Arico said, and I
aliens is not out of the question. At all.
okay,
Like I said, I don't believe in God
okay,
personally.
sure.
Even with my experiences, the idea that aliens could exist and that they might,
I feel as though the host should recognize the people in the chat. And am I too far off from that, or
no. I'm sorry.
So okay, so I'm gonna if you guys don't mind muting for 1 second, just because there's like a lot of static in the back, we'll go through a couple of questions and feel free to chime in if you feel you have something of value to say. Something that I was interested while we were going through the other comments, something that Rico said, this open source science around energy is happening now. I'm not sure what you meant by that, but I would love to know more. And then I see Karika saying new information travels very fast. Okay, so this refers to our previous talk about the progress that business brought up. Purpose is hard. Oh, by the way, Amakuri, thank you so much, both for the gifts, the likes, and participation. Brian Forbes is in the house. Wait, why is it not the right picture? I hope he can come on. Let's see, James. Yeah, so actually something to tie it quickly to the experiences of Dragonfly and Bob is that, like I said, everybody here knows, because I say it all the time, I'm trying to keep this middle line between, the scientific kind of perception of the world and the more spiritual perception of the world. And like I also said, it literally blows my mind every time I'm hearing an account like that now, and I don't immediately go like, oh, this is insane. Like I actually know, and you can kind of hear it in the voice where the person actually experienced this. And
Can I say once more?
Of course.
I don't believe that there's any spiritual thing going on.
What do you believe that is happening then?
Coincidence, like extreme luck.
But do you understand that somehow your mind gave you the experience of whatever it is that you've had?
Well, if I can say, have you ever done acid or LSD?
this is the antithesis of human, why we're here on Earth. Excuse me.
Well, yeah, see, I get that, and maybe it could have been something more for me that I didn't realize, but for me personally, it's no more than taking acid or LSD.
So a quick thing, guys, don't say these names on the chat because they might block us. But I have a question for both. I have a question for both of you.
Properly say that.
You can, yeah, you can allude to it, but don't say the actual words.
It's no more than
No, I got you. But I have a follow up question for both of you. Okay, about what you just expressed about one another. So the first thing, Bob, you're saying this is just basically some type of hallucination, right? What I think that
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, sure, no, and that's a valid, and that's a
That's why all my 5 experiences were different.
Sure, and that's a valid way of looking at it. I don't have a problem with it. I think we're all having our experience, and like I said, like you said, there's a reason for it, right? I do want to ask you, do you not? I feel like you don't fully appreciate the fact that, however, like if you're saying it's just a hallucination, okay, what is hallucinating? So in that sense, like where's consciousness coming from? Is it fundamental? Is the universe as
Let me
consciousness?
respond to the fact that the whole heaven aspect, that was extremely real. It was extremely real. The whole hell aspect was extremely real, and the being stuck in purgatory
Uh-huh.
was very real.
Okay.
Okay, those are three aspects of pretty much all of religion.
Right. But
right? No matter what you believe in, Christianity, Catholicism, Buddhism, you know.
But Bob, focus with me, because you're not answering what I'm asking you. I'm asking you if you think that this is a hallucination, right? What is
I do.
right?
do
I
think they were
understand,
all hallucinations.
brother. I understand, but I need you to listen to what I'm asking you. What is it that is hallucinating then?
It's my brain.
But okay, how is your brain giving rise to this experience you have right now?
I think it's the lack of oxygen or the chemicals that went into my brain.
No, I mean
Or
experience in
the,
general. How is consciousness arising from a physical brain?
You see, you're twisting words now.
No, I'm
Yeah.
asking you a very direct question. How
Yeah.
do you think, in your opinion, consciousness arising from a physical brain? Because so far science could never answer this question.
So, in all honesty, I might not actually get the question that you're giving me.
Okay, so I'm asking you, right now you said that all of these things seem random to you, which, by the way, I have no problem with it at all. I'm not talking about.
There were 5 different experiences, and they were all five different situations.
Got it. Okay.
Well, the last 3 weren't different situations. I OD'd on all 3 of those. Last
But your
ones.
experience
I
was
feel
different.
like though we're going this cycle.
Yeah, we're going a little bit in circles here.
Insanity.
I think you're trying to ask me is how did the effect come into my brain?
No, I'm asking you, how do you think, in the largest scale possible picture, when you think of yourself as a living being, right? You have something called an experience. So we don't think that rocks, but we don't think that rocks experience things, right? So, but humans do. So how? Right. But so you just accept that somehow the brain makes up consciousness, and then whatever the brain can make is what we're experiencing, and sometimes it's just random and sometimes it's not. That's basically what you feel, right?
What I accept is that certain situations affect the brain differently. So in all 5 of my times, whether it was the 2 accidents or the 3 ODs, something affected my brain and made me see something different each time.
Got it.
Now the fact that it's seen those 5 specific times is just coincidence, because maybe I was thinking about that. Maybe I was thinking about death when I saw hell. Maybe I was thinking about heaven when I thought about my parents.
So what are you gonna do about it?
What am I going to do about it? I'm just going to keep living.
That's a good answer.
And
Productively.
I stopped doing drugs. And
That's amazing.
I stopped drinking so much. I'm trying to live my life a little bit better, so I don't have to. I'm trying to.
So let me come in for a second and ask Dragonfly a question. Because we obviously have a difference of opinion here about what the meaning of it is, right? Why in your worldview, why do you feel that it's not okay for him to think the way he thinks? Like, isn't it live and let live? Isn't it like that's his reality and that's how he chooses to perceive it? Would you not be okay with that?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's not my role to influence or change where he's at. He's at exactly where he's supposed to be at. So I apologize.
No, don't apologize. This is an open discussion. That's a real question.
My issue is I want to help and
heal and change, and you know, but that's not my role.
You can only
Can
offer,
I
right?
ask
You
a-
can't give. You
I
can't
ask
give.
a
You can.
question there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Miss Firefly, is it because the way you were raised that you seem like you need to save me?
It's
It's okay to
interesting. Like
answer.
yes. So I've gone through a lot of like life coaching, right, for years, and what
that's perfectly fun.
what I've realized is with my parents, absolutely, yeah. Like I wanted.
Can I tell you one thing right now?
Yeah.
Those experiences are past me. I joined here to share those experiences. I promise you right now, even without being saved and without religion, I still live my life as what you would consider a proper human being. I hold the door open. I look out for others.
I appreciate you.
Well, I do the best I can without truly believing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You don't have to save me, okay?
And sometimes
Thank you for
they're
that.
better
Yeah.
than most religious people, to be honest.
What did you say? Business?
Well,
And then sometimes, what Bob's saying, sometimes the way what he's describing is the way he's living, being a proper human. That's better than most religious people how they live. The
Yeah.
guys on Sunday.
Absolutely.
Woo!
That's kind of what I got from all of it. I've read the Bible. I've done my research. I've done research on many religions, and that's how I live with it.
Yeah. Well, I actually don't think that the dragonfly is coming from the biblical perspective at all. But I do think that
No.
ultimately,
She just wants to save me.
yeah, no. I think that she's trying to. She said help, not save, and there's a big difference. But she immediately.
You in your journey.
Miss Firefly, you don't have to help me at all.
Yeah.
I've already. It's been 10 years since my last overdose.
Amazing.
That was the last time that I had.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was,
And-
that was the last time I had that last major experience, and it was a trip.
And she.
Congratulations, Bob. That's a big milestone to go a decade without it.
Yeah.
That's the way I explain it. That was my last trip.
And she recognized it right away, brother. We have let's see, what do we have here?
I appreciate your concern, but you don't need to save me.
We're good. She's not trying to.
Interesting. Yeah. That's my journey as well.
I want
is
Dragonfly to sleep
What I'm trying to work
sleep
on.
better at night. That she doesn't, don't worry about Bob. Bob's okay, I promise.
Bob's okay. Bob's okay.
What about Bob?
Bob's okay is also a good. It's also a good T-shirt.
Remember, I'm a ghost. I float in and out.
uh,
No.
So,
In and out.
guys, I see dead people.
What about Bob?
I'm not that person. I'm not from the show or this.
I see simulation code.
Oh my goodness! I just watched that movie just the other day.
I know.
It's so
It-
much better as an adult. by
It's
the way.
a who I forget what comedian it was, but it was great. He said that this is how much. Hold on, Bob. This is how much we don't. Okay, I don't know whose side that is, but please mute, guys. Please mute your.
I gotta pick this up.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Sounded like a beeper.
Yeah, it was either a beeper or disconnect. There you go.
Bringing back to the 80s.
Okay, so I don't remember which comedian said that, but he said that there was this is how much we don't believe that he was talking about marriage, and he said, do you know how much we're so used to the idea of a wife giving us the silent treatment? Because in the movie The Sixth Sense, they showed us in the beginning that he killed himself. But the whole movie, we couldn't accept it. It made more sense to us that she just didn't talk to him for a year.
Oh my gosh. I recall that. Who was that?
It's perfect.
Yes.
So here's the thing. This is exactly why, by the way, Dragonfly. I don't know if you're new to the channel or not, but this is exactly why And I appreciate you. I appreciate you being like very quick on your feet, like recognizing, when we, we're offering more than maybe the other side is willing to accept. I'm with you that there's this like I also share this tendency to try and help people understand certain things. And at a certain point, I was like, there has to be a receiving end to it in order for it to first
Yeah.
fully land.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
yeah, but I have to also say, if I have to be completely fair, that up until the moment that I made that my discovery and then starting exploring these domains more in depth, I was also of the exact same mind frame, which is that oh, I thought, no, you can come on, brother. I just thought that because I didn't know if you were. Yeah, just ask to join again, Bob, and I'll pull you back up. There you go. And that was also my exact perception that things just happen, and there's no real meaning behind any of it, and it all is based on experience. But what's interesting is that Bob also had all of these experiences that he told us about, and he still lands
Yeah.
on the thing. When I show people the laser, for example, I don't know if you guys understand what this channel is about, but I basically discovered a few years ago that if you project a diffracted laser on the surface and you ingest a particular molecule that I cannot really name, you will see code writing in surfaces. And this is now ubiquitous.
Oh my God, you're
People see-
talking my language.
You talking about light travel?
No,
Yeah.
talking about straight up.
No.
I'm not sure that you fully understand what I'm saying,
No,
because
go on.
No, I'm
Because-
at a loss.
the what?
Go on.
So I know that some people, like, they see light language and codes and all that stuff, but we're talking about like straight up, like you're watching a digital clock, like it's just there and it doesn't change. It's exactly what it is. There's now over 1,000 people worldwide that saw it. My point is that most people that I show this to have the same impression, which is like, holy shit, are you kidding me? This is for real? Like, we actually live in the Matrix? Okay. But some people, sometimes it's rare, but it does happen. They fully see it, and I see that there's just no, like, no matter what, it's just like, no, it's just,
You're talking about an effect that's been labeled, right?
there's been what? Sorry?
Yeah, you're talking about an effect that's been labeled. It's kind of like the deja vu effect.
I'm not so sure what you mean by that.
The fact or the effect of seeing glitches in the Matrix. How about that?
Sure. Well, my contention and what I'm putting forth is that this
There's
is
a word
real.
for it.
The what?
There's a word for it. It's labeled.
You mean like somebody came up with a name for it?
Yes, exactly.
Sure.
I would assume that you knew that name. That's the closest I can get to what you're explaining.
Sure.
I'm very much interested in what you're saying.
Yeah. So I maintain that, and this is where I would just like submit it to you, basically, Bob, is that no, absolutely, there's something more, and that something is about to make itself very apparent. Now only time will tell, obviously. The what? Sorry.
No, I just groaned.
Oh.
I'm listening to you. I'm open.
Yeah. So it only time will tell if I'm right. Some people experience it directly, like for example, Dragonfly, right? They experience it in their body, in their being. They know, but they experience their own version of that, and it's communicating to them in the way that it makes sense to them.
Dragonfly or butterfly?
Dragonfly.
Are you talking about the butterfly effect?
No, I was talking about Dragonfly over here.
Okay, well, I don't know about Dragonfly.
Dragonfly is the name of the person with us in the chat. And it, by the way, the Dragonfly is also a huge.
I'm sorry, Dragonfly.
It's
No worries.
and it's also a huge omen.
If I can delve in this.
You're good.
Oh my goodness.
Hey Danny,
Yeah.
you were just about to say something that I found really interesting. You said some people see the code, but do they deny it, or where were you going with that?
Yeah, please go
You
on.
can see that there's so here's what I noticed. First, there's the layers of the code that are more just structures before you see the digits. If you just see the structures, I can totally see how it's not completely convincing, because you're like, well, look, I'm on this like super crazy hallucinogen. I'm looking at a wall with a light. Of course, I'm going to see something crazy. However, when you see the digits, it becomes undeniable. It becomes like very, very concrete. And
Synchronicity is insane. Insanity to me. Every day, all day long. I apologize for cutting you off.
no, you can cut me off. I
But
don't know. I don't know what the relevance
The
of synchronicity
numbers
is. Though.
are ridiculous. Like
They're also
like
reoccurring
synchronicities.
throughout our lives.
So the
What's
so the digits we're seeing is not so much like kind of like you see in like in places and stuff like that. I'm talking about like straight up like you see code like in the Matrix, like in the
Literally,
surface.
like on a computer screen, like not even a computer screen, but blurred on a computer screen.
And not even blurred. It's actually very concrete, like when you see it with the laser. But so to your question, Cal, when people see, so there's when they see the digits, usually there's always this response that you heard me talk about 1 billion times, which is like people are just like shocked, right? But some people, I've had it twice. From all the people that I've ever seen this, I've seen it twice, but it was very interesting to me because any anomaly is actually super interesting to me. What happened was that I know for a fact they saw the digits because they described them. And yet they go, well, they kind of try and explain it away. But then I noticed something else. In both cases, I saw fear. And what I realized, or at least that's the way I explain it to myself, is that, oh, so if it scares you, there's immediately a very, very strong reaction in the brain, and you make up a whole story about like, how do you explain this away? And that's because we do this across the board everywhere, right? We get in trouble, or we do something that we know that wasn't exactly right, and then we kind of see maybe a layer of the repercussions, and then we go like, oh, okay. And then you either engage with trying to rectify the situation, or you fall on the other side, which is just you kind of just explain it away. And I
Those
don't.
people have previous experience with the molecule or anything like it?
One yes, one no.
And I can give you a very good example of an explanation of those weird those weird anomalies.
Sure, go ahead.
Goodness gracious. Isn't it just kind of basically deja vu?
How,
What you talking about?
I don't know how you got to deja vu, brother.
Well,
That would be
you're
a
talking
beautiful
about seeing
thing.
like when you're like so what you're describing, I'm looking at as like numbers, ones and zeros.
And Japanese, straight up like in the movie.
Well,
Hey,
not
Bob,
even in Japanese.
if you go to Danny's
in my
YouTube
own
channel,
language.
hey Bob, if you
But,
go to Danny's
I
YouTube
see
channel,
it.
you can see it.
Yeah. So I highly.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be right now. We can do it after the conversation, obviously. But I would highly recommend that both of you watch some of my videos, either the ones that are pinned to the top on TikTok, or you go to. Oh,
Yeah,
dang.
and Danny's also not like referring to the Matrix flicks where like he's walking up the stairs and he sees the same black cat twice, like deja vu. This is more of like a concrete code.
I've gone through like 5 fucked up moments in my life, and I'm always open to different interpretations of it.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is that it makes perfect sense to me that according to our level of preparedness and also level of ability to observe and process the information, we would land on different scenarios. And yes, some of us would land in a particular bulk of what we think it is. And usually it's easy because we already swim in some conceptual waters. Either
No one questions the fact that we observe things in a very specific way.
Right. And this is why what I'm saying is that ultimately,
Pluck the human eyeball out, and you can observe things in so many different ways.
right. And that's what I'm trying to say is that I don't actually find it odd or weird that you landed even after 5 times on the conclusion that it's all just random, because every single time it was different for you. So because there was no common denominator, you were like, well, it seems just randomly.
Logical way to go about it.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I don't have any issue with it. However, there's a truth to the matter, and that we'll eventually find out, right?
If you don't mind me asking you, Danny, your perception of what God is, opposed to Danny, forgive me, C2,
Bob.
1H3.
This
Bob is his name.
Bob.
Bob, all right, thanks. Opposed to his view.
Well, I was very much in his camp where because I never had these experiences.
Well, I don't have a specific view.
Well, you have a view that it's random, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, it's extremely random.
Sure,
What
that's a
you're
view.
saying Is that it's pre-programmed,
That's a view.
right?
Right. So I'm saying that I was very much in your camp and basically thought that everything was kind of first of all, even in scientific terms, nothing is random. Like nobody evolution by natural selection is
there's no coincidences. Yeah.
Listen, no common denominator. Out of 5 times, I've literally been brought back. I've been
We know
without
this.
breath for 5 minutes.
to your
5
question,
times I was
Mary.
brought back.
Yeah.
5 different, experiences.
One second, guys. Just a couple of answers to some questions. The colors of the numbers is the color of the light. So if you're using red light, it's going to be red, green, green, blue, blue, and so on. And no, it's not just zeros and ones.
What I'm getting from your conversation is, I think it's pre-programmed. Is what you're trying to tell me.
No, I actually think that the simulation is open source. So you're still making the types of free choices you would think you would make if you would live in what you would call a physical world.
It's kind of like ultimate AI.
Yeah. So you are AGI. This thing that we think that's going to happen
Okay.
inside of a computer, we are it. You are inside of a computer
We
now.
are the Matrix.
We are in the matrix, but the matrix is the real
It's more
world.
than the Matrix.
So you can think of it in terms of connecting it to God. You can think of it in terms that the God is actually running the ultimate simulation, and that
That's
simulation.
what I was kind of.
Yeah, it's
thinking
running
that
all the
Bob did.
simulations. However, to be fair to the other side of perception here, Dragonfly, and this is by no means to diminish anybody's worldview. My perception of the situation is that the true thing, whatever it is, what the real thing is not like anything that even people
Yeah.
in the spiritual community imagine. I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think they nailed it. I don't think they're even close. So it's
Well,
not like it's our higher
so
self. Like I think that the structure is much more complex than that. So
Yeah,
It could
I
be
agree.
anything you can imagine, but so much more, and nothing similar.
yeah, and I think that there's a tremendous value in, for example, the type of life work that you're doing, Dragonfly, because it helps people maneuver through this very hectic space of, I guess, what you would call the awakening, which is just the understanding that there's a higher space, right? So then it can really send people out spinning out of control, and it's very important that somebody's going to help them with the frame, with the way it feels. Ultimately, if you want to think of it in very simple terms, if you believe that everything is infinite and maybe experience just repeats itself forever, not just as a human but in general, then
Yeah.
ultimately the only thing that has real value is how well all that time is spent, right? Because if
Yeah,
it doesn't matter
yeah.
how many dimensions, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you feel like shit in the 8th dimension, it doesn't matter if you feel like shit in the 8th dimension, only in the 3rd dimension. Who cares? You feel like shit,
Or the
right?
night. Yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing that matters is how you feel
At
and
this moment.
in this moment. Exactly. There's only the now.
Yeah.
And then all the stories, they're just a point of contention. So for example, this is why I was saying that that I can understand like where you're coming from when it's like when Bob said what he said and you're like, wait, but what about the
I get exactly what you're saying now.
yeah, but on the other hand, it's like, well, if he lives a better life and he doesn't drink and he doesn't, and again, I know you're already on board. I'm not like trying to convince you. I know you're already fully on board. Yeah, no, I'm talking to Dragonfly right now. I know that you, yeah, I know that you already on board, but I just want to kind of, maybe reiterate that. Yeah, and it's ultimately what I'm seeing is like where the person actually is at, and also reminding myself that because I know that, some of the stuff that I've seen, it doesn't map onto anything that what people told me, like from that has to do with God and higher source, and I know that people are experiencing this. Like I said in the beginning of the conversation, I know I've seen them do it. I've seen it with my eyes. I felt it in my body. But it does make sense to me that the simulation will unfold for each person in the way that is the closest to how they can be comfortable with, right? Because the real thing is truly
It's
unfathomable.
how you see your own life.
Yep,
Period.
basically, exactly, yeah. So that's why I land on this.
Continue to live your own life. You choose to believe what you believe.
Yeah.
You choose to do what you do.
Yeah, and but if I have to kind of like put my hypothetical hat and maybe postulate the thing that is the
Please,
least
Sergeant.
comfortable for me personally to postulate. Can't speak for anybody else, but this is the thing that I know for me is the most uncomfortable. I think that the reason that the idea of an actual all good God, like ultimate like God, not biblical God, but like the source.
The thought.
The reason that I'm so uncomfortable with it is because it's very scary to be in the presence of ultimate love. And I know that even people who say, again, I can't speak for anybody else, but I've seen it like in real time, where even the people who talk the kind of talk that you would probably employ, which is like, we should always like, let's embrace, let's do this. It's a matter of degree. Even you would have a level of love you would be uncomfortable with. And because it's just like, oh,
But
like
you
just,
shook your head no when you said that.
in what part?
A level of love.
Right, because that's the part that I know I'm super uncomfortable with. It because
So is that? I apologize.
why? No, say what you want to
So,
say.
Is there like a degree of history that perhaps is kind of shielding you from experiencing that, or am I kind of off on that?
I think you're a little off on that. And actually, I would tell you something that. So I'm gonna turn it on you, and not to like
Okay.
attack you or anything, but like I want you to notice something here. Are you open to the possibility that the reason that this is where you always feel that like is because it is
Yeah.
true about you? Because
Yeah.
because you can't. Here's what I see, and again, totally my perception of reality. Of course, I can be wrong and everything. However, what
No,
I've
yeah.
seen, and not just about you, just like in general, even the most loving people, the people that I met, people that are truly like kind of like on the like they're very Jesus like they're very like just loving and right. But I see there's always something there that they're either not fully there, or I see that ultimate love, like ultimate, we're talking about like source, like you just become one with the source.
Yeah.
That is a
That's why
very
we're
scary.
here, to get to that ultimum like epitome, like yeah.
Yeah, and also the what? Sorry.
I said, can I say one phrase?
Of course.
Life is just a concept. That's what you're getting at, right?
No, life is about growth, ascension. No, there's more than that.
That's
So Danny, I can I'm just gonna throw my 2 cents in here
Please.
about this, and I think I know where you're going with this ultimate love thing. So when I think about it personally, it's ultimate love, and I think about even the potential of feeling that, right? It sounds great and amazing, and it's love, right? What can be better than love? But I also feel this: if it's that much love, how am I even worthy of that?
But that's the issue. That's the issue.
What is the issue specifically?
What's the issue?
What I'm saying is what Danny is going up, what he's about, like talking about, is those are the generational curses.
Well, and Kel, how you'll know you're worthy, because when you're in that space of infinite love, that's where you come from. That's where you first were created. So in a sense, you're going home back to a place that you started at. And when you're in Source's presence, it's the most ultimate homecoming. But at the same time, when we're still connected, they call it the silver tether, the silver cord. When we're still connected to this human body, and through substance or through car accident, overdose, anything, and you get to that space, I know what Danny's talking about. It's kind of terrifying, because it's the most overloaded sensation.
Initially, tell me if I'm wrong, but it initially comes down to what you feel about your own life.
Say it again.
Initially, it comes down to what you feel about your own life.
Well, yeah. Whenever you're first,
How
whenever
you
you're first
experience
in
it.
that, whenever you're first in that presence, and let's say you've lived a life or it's full of regret. Yeah, at the beginning of that encounter, you might feel that, oh my God, I'm not worthy of this. How am I even being showered with all of this love? I don't deserve this. But usually, in my experience, it doesn't last long because it's such an intense amount of love that you're like,
You
it's
forget about it in the thing.
Yeah, no, that's exactly why. So the Buddha never held anyone's hand and said it's all going to be all right, or we're all ascending, we're all children of God. Like Buddha never spoke this way. That's because he well, you can say believe, but I would say he knew that the only way to truly experience that is to get there by relinquishing any attachment to the conceptual framework whatsoever. And a lot of the times I think that what we're forgetting is that when we reassure each other about things, we're playing a very finite game right here, right now. And really, if anything else, it's very much designed to assuage both ends of the conversation, including the one that is uttering the words. So when you're saying to somebody, it's all going to be all right, there's something about the intonation, the vibration, if you mean that, it also makes you feel good. And then you feel, oh, we're good. But because I've had the experience of dancing on the outskirts of that infinite love, from experience, and this is why I can, like I said, I can only speak for myself, but I also saw that dread in people's eyes that are like very loving, but when they were on the verge of that, they were like, oh, like, yeah.
Can I ask, with that frame of thought, we as people are nothing at all? We're just all as one?
Yeah, like you mean like in this in that belief system?
Like the ideal of people or being a being doesn't exist. We are just all one.
Well, no, we're all fragments
all
of the
one.
source consciousness. We're all
Okay.
we're all parts of the whole.
Yeah.
And this is, and by the way, Dragonfly, I'm so, I so hope that I'm not like, it doesn't feel like I'm like poking you at all. Like I'm just sharing with you mine, because I hope it can add something to the repertoire of the things that you entertain. But
I appreciate that.
yeah, but ultimately, and again, this is why I fall a lot more on the kind of like the Buddhist perspective, where if you can't experience bliss, and I mean this, I know it sounds trite because we've heard this a billion times, but if you can't find like ultimate bliss in this, in the dog's ball, you won't find it in AD. You won't find it. You won't find it anywhere. It's right here. So this is it. This is it. Yeah.
And also, it's interesting with Buddhism is that was actually I grew up Methodist, anyway, Christian. So my next belief was Buddhism, and so I studied that religiously. And so the feeling of the breath of the way that anyway, so yeah, I was really in deep with that. And what I also found was, what I learned was, like, Buddhism, there's a lot of like dark energy. I shouldn't say that. Dark, not dark.
Why
However,
shouldn't you say it if you believe that is the case?
Sadness, if that it makes
You
sense.
don't think there's heaven and sadness?
Yeah.
No, really, I'm not being a smartass. Like I'm truly asking.
Yeah, no.
At the other end of sadness, there's this like complete catharsis where you just like sink into this like, this like long, slow blanket of whatever life is, and it's like when you feel sadness all the way to the core.
Oh man, I love a good cry, don't you?
Yeah.
At the end of it.
A true
Yeah, at the end of it.
Well, like with Buddha, for example, he actually had a very, very sad aspect to his existence.
You think so? To him?
Yeah, he
To him?
How much do
did.
you know about Buddha?
That's what I'm saying. Like I did
How
a
much
lot of
did
research
Buddha know
on
about himself, honestly?
that.
Your
That's
perception. Wait, but let her say hers, Bob. I want to hear it. So in your perception, his life, there was a sad element to it. Do you think
Yeah.
it was? Do you think it was to him, or do you perceive it that way?
Definitely, he lived a different life where he was perceived to be a certain kind of way, but he wasn't.
How do you know that?
I just know.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Should we Google it? That seems.
Oh yeah. Wait, what should we Google? Was Buddha sad?
Yeah, I know. Like, how do you even?
Well,
know
I mean,
about
you
that? Like,
definitely won't find it on Google. Let me tell you that. The only reason that I paused with what you said.
Teaching was all about just understanding life in general and how
Yeah,
you perceive
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that.
But I will
I
say,
agree.
but I will say, he still had a part where he still struggled, just like you and I, humans.
He was human too.
How can you know
Yeah.
bliss without struggle?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm not. There's no. Yeah.
So the physical, so according to at least the stories, the thing there was, and that's the entire teaching, or
Let's remember they're all stories.
well, no, I mean like
Well, the Bible's a story. What are you gonna do?
no. The Buddha was a real person. It's not the same as, like, let's say Jesus, that is contentious whether he existed
Jesus
or not.
Christ was a real person at some point.
Maybe, but the Buddha definitely was. So because it's in history, like it's not a.
Jesus Christ definitely was too.
Jesus Christ is a little bit more contentious. I personally think he was a real thing, but
he didn't die and resurrect after 3 days.
Yeah.
That's all garbage.
sure,
I
but
mean,
but I do want to touch on this point of what Dragonfly was saying about the Buddha. According to at least the reports, let's call them not stories but reports,
Sorry.
the whole thing about him is that, and that's the teaching in its entirety, which is that of course the physical body will still experience uncomfortable situations and problems and all of that stuff, but the whole teaching was that attachment is suffering. So as long as you don't attach to any of these outcomes or moments, you won't suffer. And then you might experience sadness, like your body will feel sadness, but you are not part of that sadness. That's essentially so now the difference, for example, between Christianity and really all the Judeo-Christian religions and Buddhism is that Buddhism does not rely on the stories at all or on even the teachings themselves. It relies
That was the only beautiful thing about Buddha, is because he was free of mind and body.
well, and the fact that the whole teaching is based on practice. So when you practice, you either find out that it's true on your own or you don't. There's no dogma attached to the actual truth propositions. The Buddha never spoke about anything metaphysical. All of these things came after.
Just the connection of being one with yourself.
Well, yeah, or just dissolve the need to be a part of the whatever this is.
The physical form.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's like a tall order. But the what?
I said freeing your mind.
Another way of saying it. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I love the Bob is all right. This is I'm still there. It's awesome.
You got me hooked, man. Hook, line, and sinker. I love this.
Amazing.
It's interesting you said metaphysical.
Yeah, he never uttered a word about the metaphysical world. I know it's surprising, but he never said anything about it. All of this came when people that wrote about him. But the Buddha himself, if you actually read like any of the books that talk about like his actual utterances, like that he spoke, it was only in like if he would tell you like a little story to teach you a lesson, or
Yeah,
or show you how to meditate, but that's it. Like he never spoke about spirits, he never spoke about realms, he never spoke about ascending, he never spoke about enlightenment.
I know that's what the
I
yeah.
don't like the true
um,
translation of the Bible.
Because I'm very metaphysical, and so yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, and that's really the point. Again, by the way, just to put it very, very bluntly, the Buddha could have been wrong. Okay, anybody could have been wrong. Who knows? But I'm just telling you what I like. I practice,
Yeah, no,
and
you're totally right.
yeah,
Yes.
and I think that ultimately the picture probably contains all the elements that a lot of people believe. It's just that the actual truth at the core is beyond the words that we say about them. That to me, that's pretty clear. It has to be the case.
And Buddha translated means the awakened one or the enlightened one.
Yeah, that's a
And the
title.
Buddha-
Exactly.
The Buddha that everybody studies, there's way more Buddhas than that. So it's like there's been multiple people that have been deemed as awakened ones or enlightened ones. And when you're enlightened, what that truly means is that you realize that you are a source fragment. You are connected to source. You are part of God. You are part of eternal love.
Listen,
The
the
whole-
idea of Buddha,
like I said
is
last night.
older than any religion.
The what? Sorry, Bob. What did you say?
I said the idea of Buddha is um,
Maybe I don't know enough about
I
it.
think you cut off the business.
Wait, I cut off? No.
No, not
Oh.
you. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
it was me. I
Bob.
apologize.
No, you're fine, Bob. So it's like, Jesus could have been considered a Buddha
Yeah.
as well, because he was an enlightened individual, an awakened person
That's
as well.
the fact. Jesus was a Buddha.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that
I believe Jesus had a wife. Jesus wasn't the saint that the Christians believe him to be, that the Jewish believe him to be. He wasn't that person.
yeah.
The Jews really don't believe in Jesus, but
Well, in this, so yeah. I mean, ultimately,
it all branched out, and let's look at how much hate that brought, and how much death that brought.
but you can't. Yeah. It's kind of like I mean, in the end of the day, yes, there is some seed in the message, but don't. It just people are also very good at creating havoc, no matter what it is.
Right, it gets taken over. But Buddhism, that I've never seen any too much hate from Buddhism.
Exactly. Which gives you a big hint.
Don't you think these are like worldly issues? Like,
There'll always be worldly issues.
well, what I mean by that is people, places, things, situations, and that kind of thing.
That's the biggest problem with religion.
Eh.
So I will tell you something, Dragonfly. The reason that doesn't fully track, I hear you, and it's true to a degree, because people will always hijack whatever it is and then make it into whatever. But it is true that to say that it's much harder to make sense of violence under the Buddhist tenets. Like it's much harder, even though the Bible and all the religious texts talk about like following, especially with Jesus, like turn the other cheek and all that stuff. But the Bible is also filled with a lot of violent things. In the Buddhist perspective, because the focus is only on the practice. So just like the business said, he nailed it. The Buddha is just a title, right? The actual Buddha we're talking about, like the Buddha, quote unquote, is Siddhartha Gautama or Gautama. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but that he was a prince, and the only real actual contribution that he made, because meditation existed. He didn't invent meditation. A lot of the traditions existed. What he innovated, which is funny to say in modern terms, but it was an innovation.
Taught a bunch of people to do it.
You know what? You just nailed it. He basically taught people that the only way, and this was his
I did this for a period of time.
yeah
You should do it too.
yeah
Just try it. and it will open your mind.
Oh, I know. I meditate all the time. I do meditation retreats, but the thing with him is that he basically explained to people that the only way you can ever find salvation is if you practice. If you actually put in the work and do it yourself. Like, you're your own master. There are no other masters. You can't ascend anywhere. You have to
The
sit and
greatest thing
practice.
is he never preached it.
Exactly. Oh, that's also a really good point. He just made a bunch of people do
He
it.
put the idea in.
Yep.
But the thing
And
is,
people
I
practice.
do. Go ahead.
No, I said he put the idea in people's heads and people practice it. He never taught Buddhism. Buddha never taught it. I mean, he did in a sense, but he never forced anyone to do so. He wasn't like a preacher at church saying, "Oh well, God did this and Jesus died for that." No.
So what were you saying, Dragonfly?
I do affirmations daily,
Mhm.
like 45 minutes a day.
Okay.
And I feel as though that is a contribution as far as like healing, ascending.
Does it make you feel good?
Yeah, positive energy ripples out like that. So yeah, doing morning, daily gratitude affirmations. That's how I start my day as well.
That's why I asked. Does it make you feel good? Is your day
Sure
better
does.
if you do it?
Yeah, Dragonfly is asking you a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does your day feel better after you do it?
Yeah.
Well, that's a wonderful thing. That's what that's meant to do.
So you see that this is what I would say. And again, I can't read your mind, obviously, Dragonfly, but I always encounter this where if you do a
If I
thing.
sound like an ass, I apologize, but it's
No, I listen. I think listen. I think you're raising something very important, because these things are super important to get it right. I think personally, which is that if you do the practice because you believe that by this practice you're helping the world, and that's the only reason why you feel good about it, then it might be the wrong reason to do that practice. So if you do the practice because you understand that it's influencing
Yes.
yourself, and then you get to go out into the world and actually influence it in a positive way, that's amazing.
Yes.
But it's and I don't know if that's the case for you. I actually don't know, but very often it can be, where people get into the mindset that, like, of self-importance by doing these things, and then they say, well, I'm doing all of that. It's like, well, you feel good, that's good. And that's where people get into the trap. So again, I'm not actually like in a roundabout way speaking about you, because I really don't know, but it is a common thing. So I always try to kind of like not make it into a thing that I think is more than just like for myself. And then in my immediate influence of people, obviously I'm trying my best to leave the room and keep people happy, which I fail very often, but I do my.
Anxiety, so I apologize.
Oh, so
You're fine.
Dragonfly, you don't need to apologize. We're like, this is all love here, like, truly. And by the way, I also know, which is where I was humbled, like I said in the beginning of the conversation, because like I said, I was very much of the mindset that Bob is occupying, and I was very humbled, and it was very difficult for me to handle with it, because people proved to me that I was wrong. But I was wrong that I was considering that nobody is capable of reaching into you without touching you. Like I was wrong, because I felt it for sure, like 100%. However this happens, I don't know, but like I know this is possible, but because I've had that experience. And if people don't have that experience, I don't demand them to accept it, because there's no way they can. It's just there's no way. But I was lucky enough to have some of these experiences, and I still don't know how that happens, right? I don't really have I have some assumptions, but I have no idea how that happens. So I know for a fact that everything you're saying you're doing, some of it is very powerful for a lot of people that you're touching. It's just that that there has to be always this balance, which is why I think that the point that Bob brought up is actually an important one as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I also say it's the understanding of not caring of what other people think. That real that moment of letting loose and just not caring and doing your own thing. That's what we seek to accomplish, right?
Basically. I just realized, guys, that we're at 2.5 hour mark, and I still have to go do some grocery shopping, and the store might close on me.
I appreciate you so much.
Guys, I really appreciate you. I hope you come back. If you want to follow the YouTube channel, it's Dango Thoughts. I'm here every single day, and I'll get better at knowing the exact time, as was pointed out to me by some wonderful people that join me daily here. So I'll make sure that
Miss Firefly, you were wonderful.
I think she just left, but I really hope she'll
Yeah,
come
she
back with us.
left.
Bob, thank
Miss
you so much for
Cal.
sharing, brother.
I missed you, Cal. Thank you.
And we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Mr. B.
All right, thanks everybody.
Have a good night.
Peace.
Peace and love. Thank you, YouTube NX. Have a good night.